My son complained about supporting me financially. He didn't check who paid his mortgage. That's how I taught my ungrateful son a lesson about respect and family loyalty that he'll never forget. If you enjoy stories about entitled children learning valuable lessons, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more sweet revenge stories that deliver the justice you love to see. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation at 68 years old. After dedicating my entire life to being the best father I could be, working 2 jobs for decades to provide everything my son Michael needed, I was now being treated like a burden by my own flesh and blood. "Dad, we need to talk about your finances," Michael said during our weekly Sunday dinner at his beautiful suburban home that I had helped him buy. "Sarah and I have been looking at our expenses, and honestly, the money we're giving you every month is becoming a real problem for us." I nearly choked on my water. For the past 3 years, Michael had been giving me $300 monthly to help with expenses after I retired. This was his idea, not mine, and I'd only accepted because he had insisted it would make him feel better knowing I was comfortable. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said quietly, trying to maintain my dignity as Sarah, my daughter-in-law, nodded along with a sympathetic yet somehow smug expression. "I never meant to be a burden." "It's not that you're a burden, Dad," Michael continued, though his tone suggested otherwise. "It's just that we're trying to save for our future, and these little expenses add up. You know how it is in this economy." Little did my son know, he was about to learn exactly how financial reality worked and who had really been supporting whom all these years. To understand how we reached this painful moment, you need to know our history. I raised Michael as a single father after his mother left when he was just 5 years old. I worked as a high school teacher during the day and took evening shifts at a local warehouse to ensure Michael never felt the financial strain of having just one parent. When Michael showed academic promise, I put every spare dollar into his college fund. By the time he graduated high school, I had saved $62,000 for his education. He attended State University and graduated with a business degree, completely debt-free thanks to my savings and continued financial support throughout his college years. During those 4 years, I paid not just his tuition but also his housing, $1,200 monthly for an off-campus apartment, his meal plan, $3,500 per semester, and gave him a monthly allowance of $500 for personal expenses. All told, Michael's education cost me nearly $180,000, money I never regretted spending because I believed in investing in my son's future. After college, Michael landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm. The salary wasn't great to start, and when he mentioned wanting to buy a house with his then-girlfriend Sarah, I knew they wouldn't qualify for a mortgage with their combined income. "I want to help you get started," I told him over dinner one night. "I've been saving for years, and I'd like to assist with your down payment." What I didn't tell Michael was that my assistance would be $85,000, nearly my entire retirement savings at that point. I also didn't mention that I had arranged with the bank to be a co-signer on the mortgage, making monthly payments of $1,450 directly to the lender to help them afford the beautiful 4-bedroom house they wanted in a desirable neighborhood. Our arrangement was simple. I would make the mortgage payments for 5 years to help them establish themselves, with the understanding that they would take over completely after that time. I never asked for recognition or gratitude. I just wanted my son to have the stability I had worked so hard to provide. Meanwhile, I continued working well past when I should have retired. My knees ached from years of standing in classrooms, but I kept going because I knew Michael and Sarah needed my help. Even after they married 3 years ago in a lavish ceremony that cost me $35,000, another fact I kept to myself, I continued making those mortgage payments faithfully every month. When I finally retired at 65, my pension was modest. I had sacrificed maximizing my retirement savings to support Michael throughout his life. Still, I had enough to live comfortably in my small 2-bedroom home that I'd paid off years earlier. I certainly didn't need Michael's $300 monthly help, but I accepted it because it seemed important to his sense of being a good son. What Michael and Sarah didn't know was that I was still making those mortgage payments 3 years beyond our original agreement. The housing market had been tough, and when Michael mentioned casually that they were struggling to make ends meet after Sarah decided to work part-time following the birth of their son, I silently extended my financial support without telling them. So each month, while Michael gave me $300 with an increasingly grudging attitude, I was transferring $1,450 to their mortgage lender. I was effectively paying them $1,150 monthly, not the other way around. The tension had been building for months before that fateful Sunday dinner. I had noticed Michael and Sarah's growing resentment, the sighs when I mentioned a new prescription I needed, the exchanged glances when I talked about rising grocery prices. "Have you thought about downsizing, Dad?" Sarah had suggested 3 weeks earlier. "Your house is really too big for just one person, and you could save so much money." My two-bedroom, 1,200 square foot house was hardly a mansion, but I had smiled politely and changed the subject. It was the home where I had raised Michael, filled with memories and comfort. I had no intention of leaving. The week before the confrontation, Michael had called to ask if I really needed to join them for their planned family vacation to Florida. "The thing is, Dad, we're trying to cut costs, and an extra airline ticket and food for a week adds up," he explained awkwardly. "Plus, we were kind of hoping for some alone time as a family." "I am your family, Michael," I had reminded him quietly, hurt beyond words. "You know what I mean, Dad. Just the four of us, me, Sarah, and the kids." I had withdrawn my acceptance of their invitation immediately, telling him I understood completely. Inside, though, my heart was breaking. The vacation had been my Christmas gift to them. I had secretly paid for the beach house rental in full, $3,200 for the week, another fact they were unaware of. But the Sunday dinner confrontation was the breaking point. After Michael's comment about my financial support being a problem, Sarah decided to elaborate. "We've been talking to a financial advisor," she said, setting down her fork with a precision that suggested rehearsal. "He says we need to evaluate all our expenses, especially ones that don't contribute to our future goals." "I see," I said quietly. "And I'm an expense that doesn't contribute to your future?" "Dad, don't be dramatic," Michael sighed. "It's just that we're putting away money for the kids' college funds, and we need to prioritize." The irony was almost too much to bear. Here was my son, whose entire education I had funded, suggesting that the modest sum he gave me was preventing him from saving for his own children's education. "We were thinking," Sarah continued, her voice taking on that falsely gentle tone people use when they're about to say something cruel, "that maybe it's time you looked into senior living options. There are some very nice subsidized communities for people on fixed incomes." I set my napkin down beside my plate, my appetite completely gone. "I'm 68, Sarah, not 88. I don't need assisted living. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own home." "It's not about capability, Richard," she said, using my first name as she always did, never Dad or even father-in-law. "It's about what makes financial sense. You're living alone in a house with equity that could be supporting you, while we're stretching ourselves thin trying to help." Michael at least had the decency to look uncomfortable, but he didn't contradict his wife. "We love you, Dad, but we need to think about our children's future." "And what about your present?" I asked. "Are you struggling with your mortgage too?" A flash of something embarrassment, perhaps, crossed Michael's face. "The mortgage is fine," he said quickly. "We manage." "That's good to hear," I said, pushing back from the table. "I think I should go home now." "Dad, don't be like that," Michael protested. "We're just trying to have an honest conversation about finances." "Yes," I agreed, standing up. "Let's be honest. I'll see myself out." As I drove home that evening, I made a decision. It was time for complete honesty about our financial arrangement. It was time for Michael to learn exactly who had been supporting whom. The following Saturday, I invited Michael to lunch, just the two of us. I suggested a modest diner where we had often gone when he was a boy, hoping the familiar setting might soften what would inevitably be a difficult conversation. "Thanks for meeting me, son," I said after we had ordered. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation last weekend." Michael looked relieved. "I'm glad, Dad. I know it wasn't easy to hear, but Sarah and I really need to make some changes." "I understand completely," I said, maintaining a calm exterior while my heart raced. "In fact, I've made some decisions about our financial arrangement that I think you should know about." That's great, Michael said, visibly relaxing. So you're considering the senior living option? No, Michael, I'm not, I replied firmly. I'm considering our entire financial relationship, past and present. I removed a folder from my bag and placed it on the table between us. Do you know what these are? Michael glanced at the papers without much interest. Some kind of bank statements? These are mortgage statements for your house, Michael. For the past 8 years. He frowned, confusion replacing his relief. Why do you have those? Because I've been making your mortgage payments. Every month. Without fail. For 8 years. His face went pale. What are you talking about? We pay our mortgage. You pay a portion, I corrected him. I pay $1,450 directly to the lender every month. I have since you bought the house. We originally agreed I would help for 5 years, but when you mentioned financial difficulties 3 years ago, I extended my support without telling you. Michael stared at me in disbelief. That's not possible. I would know if someone else was paying my mortgage. Would you? I asked, sliding the statements toward him. When was the last time you actually reviewed your mortgage details? Or did you just set up automatic payments for your portion and forget about it? His hands shook slightly as he looked through the papers, recognition and horror dawning on his face. Dad, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you tell me? Because that's what parents do, Michael. They help without demanding recognition. They support without requiring gratitude. At least, that's what I thought parents did. So all this time, when we've been giving you $300 a month, I've been giving you $1,450. That's a net gain to you of $1,150 every month, Michael. For 8 years. The mathematics seemed to stagger him. That's over $110,000. $138,000, to be exact, I corrected. Not including the $85,000 down payment I provided, or the $35,000 for your wedding, or the $180,000 for your college education. Altogether, I've given you over $430,000 in the past 12 years, Michael. And you begrudge me $300 a month in return. Michael's face crumpled. Dad, I had no idea. Sarah and you thought I was a burden, I finished for him. A financial drain on your resources. An expense that doesn't contribute to your future goals, I believe were her exact words. I'm so sorry, he whispered, tears forming in his eyes. I didn't know. Clearly, I agreed. But now you do. And now we need to decide what happens next. After our lunch, I gave Michael a week to process what he had learned and to discuss it with Sarah. I used that time to meet with my attorney, a longtime friend who had helped me structure the original mortgage arrangement. You have several options, Richard, James told me after reviewing the documents. Legally, your name is on the mortgage as a cosigner, and you've been making substantial payments. You have significant equity rights in that property. I don't want to hurt Michael, I explained. I just want him to understand the reality of our situation and treat me with the respect I deserve. Of course, James nodded. But it's also important that you protect yourself financially. You've depleted much of your retirement savings to support your son. It's time to ensure your own future is secure. With James's help, I drafted a new financial agreement. Under the terms, I would transfer full ownership of the house to Michael and Sarah, removing myself as cosigner, but only under specific conditions. When Michael arrived at my house the following Sunday, I could see he was nervous. He had come alone at my request. How's Sarah taking the news? I asked as I served coffee in my modest living room. Michael sighed. She's processing it. She feels embarrassed, mainly. We both do. Dad, I don't know how to apologize for how we've treated you. Apologies are important, Michael, but they're just words. I need to see changes in behavior. I presented him with the agreement James had helped me prepare. I'm willing to transfer full ownership of the house to you and Sarah, with no further financial obligation on my part. But there are conditions. Michael reviewed the document, his expression growing more somber as he read. You want us to create a formal financial plan for your future care if needed? Yes. I don't need your money now, Michael. I never did. But someday I might need actual support, not financial, but perhaps physical care. I need to know you'll be there for me without resentment. Of course we will, Dad, he insisted. Your family. The agreement makes that commitment formal, I explained. Additionally, I want monthly family dinners, real ones, where I'm treated as a valued family member, not an obligation. And I want to be included in family vacations and holidays without being made to feel like a burden. Michael looked ashamed. Dad, we don't need a legal document for that. I promise things will be different. Nevertheless, I said firmly, these terms are non-negotiable if you want me to relinquish my financial interest in your home. I've also included a clause requiring you to set up college funds for your children, my grandchildren, with regular contributions. I'll match what you put in up to $5,000 annually. You'd still help us with the kids' college after everything? Michael asked, clearly surprised. They're innocent in all this, Michael. And education is important. I took a deep breath before continuing. Finally, I'm canceling my direct payments to your mortgage lender, effective immediately. From now on, you and Sarah will be responsible for the full amount. The reality of this last point seemed to hit Michael hard. $1,450 more per month, he calculated aloud. Plus the $300 you won't be giving me anymore, I added. So $1,750 in total adjustments to your monthly budget. I suggest you and Sarah meet with a legitimate financial advisor to determine how to manage this change. Dad, that's going to be really difficult for us. Sarah only works part-time and most American families manage on far less than your household income. Michael, I interrupted. Perhaps Sarah might consider returning to full-time work, or you might explore advancement opportunities at your firm. Those are decisions for you and your wife to make as adults. I let that sink in before continuing more gently. I'm not trying to punish you, son. I'm trying to establish a relationship based on truth and mutual respect. I want to be your father, not your banker. After some negotiation on minor points, Michael signed the agreement. As he was preparing to leave, he turned to me with tears in his eyes. I really am sorry, Dad. I don't know how we got so focused on money that we forgot what really matters. It happens gradually, I told him. But recognition is the first step toward change. I love you, Michael. I always have, and I always will. But love without respect isn't enough for either of us. The changes in our family dynamic didn't happen overnight, but they were substantial. The first family dinner after our agreement was awkward, with Sarah barely able to meet my eyes. But by the third month, a new pattern had emerged. Michael and Sarah had made significant adjustments to their lifestyle. Sarah had returned to work full-time, and they had sold one of their newer vehicles for a more economical model. They no longer lived quite so lavishly, but they managed their mortgage payments without my assistance. More importantly, the way they treated me had transformed completely. I was now included in family decisions, consulted for advice, and welcomed into their home without any undercurrent of resentment. 6 months after our confrontation, my longtime neighbor Margaret commented on the change. Your son seems to be visiting much more often, she observed as we worked in our adjacent gardens. And he brought you that lovely new patio furniture last weekend. We've come to a better understanding, I explained simply. Well, whatever happened, it's nice to see. Too many children forget what their parents sacrificed for them. At my 69th birthday celebration, held in Michael and Sarah's backyard, I received an unexpected gift. Michael handed me an envelope containing documentation for a newly established Richard Williams Care Trust. Sarah and I have been setting aside money each month, he explained as I examined the papers. It's not much yet, but it will grow. We want you to know that we're committed to taking care of you, Dad, however you need, whenever you need it. Sarah, who had been noticeably humbled since learning the truth about their mortgage, added, We've also been talking to the kids about family responsibility and gratitude. They're learning that family supports each other, not just financially, but emotionally too. The greatest gift, however, came later that evening when my grandson Jason, now 7, sat beside me on the porch swing. Daddy says you helped him buy our house, Jason said matter-of-factly. He says we should always say thank you when someone helps us. Your daddy is right, I replied, smiling at the simple wisdom. Well, thank you, Grandpa, Jason said, leaning against my side. I like our house. And I like when you come visit us. In that moment, I knew that the painful confrontation had been worth it. The lesson my son had learned about gratitude and respect was now being passed to the next generation. Sometimes, the most valuable inheritance we can leave our children isn't money or property. It's the understanding that true family relationships are built on honesty, appreciation, and mutual respect. As for me, I no longer contribute to Michael's mortgage, but I'm far more wealthy in the things that truly matter. My relationship with my son has been restored to what it should have been all along, and I've regained my rightful place as a valued and respected member of our family. Sometimes, teaching your children about financial reality is the greatest gift you can give them, even when the lesson comes with a painful price tag.